Welcome to Meeting the Inconceivable, a podcast exploring Zen koans, dreams, and the creative life produced by Pacific Zen Institute. Pacific Zen has a legacy of preserving and reimagining the koan tradition to meet our own times. With a lively community of artists, innovators, and seekers of all kinds that extends worldwide, our mission is to create a culture of transformation through meditation, koans, the arts, and conversations about the deepest matters. In this episode, Roshi John Tarrant takes up Zen's most famous koan, in which a monk asks Zhaozhou, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Zhaozhou replies, "No." Going straight to the heart of koan practice and discussing how we are inescapably changed by staying its course and the modesty that entails. Tarrant speaks to how we must come to face our own nature to enter the first great gate of perceiving reality. You must discover for yourself and yourself alone, Tarrant says. At the very cliff edge of life and death, that's where you'll find freedom.
Bai Jiang gave a talk. Old man was there listening together with the others. When they left, he left too. One day he stayed behind. Indeed, he said, I am not a human being. Very good. So the two animal koans tangled up with each other, and one of them is that one, the fox. Indeed, I am not a human being, which I always thought was one of the good lines in the koan cricket. You meet somebody in an alley and they say, indeed, I am not a human being. Can you hear okay? All in the background? Yep. In a way, it's true, all of us, Indeed, I'm not a human being. So, and when I was, I guess, at some stage, some of the dojos, they trained him. Every session started out with the koan of the dog. And it started out, it was just recited. And everybody in the room had recited. And a monk asked Zhaozhou, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Zhaozhou said, oh. And they always use the Japanese mu, which is an old, it's a Chinese pronunciation from like 1200 or something. The Chinese go wu now. But once the Chinese do it, just say wu. It means no, so we say no. Said, does the dog have Buddha nature or not? No, said Zhaozhou. And it's interesting to think of it. I never knew what to make about the dog because I never had any problems about dogs and Buddha nature, personally. But in a certain way, it makes sense to me now that, so the dog, the thing about it is part of you, so that's a good thing, the dog. So you tell, again, talk about the dog too. And it's some part of you that you probably tend to not, It's obviously a shadowy part of you. Dogs are very, I don't know, they're very loving and amiable and vicious when they need to be. Just like that. So they're very dog-like. And I always like people who know that about them. So, people who know that they have a shadow and can be pissed off or heartless or loving or reckless or whatever they are. It's good to know. It's kind of nice when people know that, and it's a lot easier in Zen when people are being virtuous, because the virtuous is always something that's not actually about virtue, it's the image thing. So dogs have something to be said for them in a way. They have very big hearts, when we're close to a dog. So I want to do the koan, and it occurs in two places in our koan curriculum. In the no gate, and that's the wu, the no gate or barrier. woman one in Chinese. And that's the one we were subjected to on the first night of session. Actually, it was the second or first night last night. Things change, the first night was given entirely to rules. Don't look at people, can't remember what they were, which says something about my character or that time. Yeah, don't look at people, don't turn around, don't speak, don't whatever. Can make social readings. Anyway, it went on and on and on. And, I'm a pretty good meditator, so I just sort of, just meditate through that stuff. But so the monk asked Zhaozhou, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Zhaozhou said, no. And women, no gate. Some of the Chinese translators have started translating out those names like woman or woman means no gate. So no gate said, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes incredibly confusing. So for the practice of Zen, it's imperative that you pass through the barrier set up by the founding teachers. For subtle realization, it's of the utmost importance you cut off the mind road. You know what mind road is? That's it. Cut it off. There. If you do not, so you can see the whole point here, you're throwing yourself into this and then everything else stops. The mind road, there's no traffic. The ghosts are not moving at midnight. They're just, just go, wait. Really? Not so hard. If you do not pass the barrier of the ancestors, if you do not cut off the mind road, then you're a ghost clinging to grass and trees. You just move about by the wind. You're not really, don't stand on your own legs. What is the barrier of the ancestral teachers? It just is one word, no. The one barrier of our faith. We call it the gateless barrier of the Zen tradition. When you pass through this barrier, you will not only interview Zhaozhou intimately, you will walk hand in hand with all the ancestral teachers in the successive generations of our lineage. You've heard of a great teacher and wished you would study with that person, and now they're dead, you'll walk hand in hand with them. Fair enough. I'll take it. The hair of your eyebrows entangled with theirs. So, really face to face. But then he goes on to say, seeing with the same eyes, hearing with the same ears, so you become a person now. Which is kind of interesting. And that's a whole thing that happens in Zen meditation, where some people say, well, I don't know who I am, but also you're all of that. It's one of the things. If you're sitting in my seat, people come in for an interview, then one of the things you notice as people start to wake out, they're not so stuck in the me. And you can sort of tell if somebody's had an experience, even if they don't really know it, What do they know? It's just their life. So, teachers in the successive generations of our lineage, the hair of your eyebrows entangled with theirs, seeing with the same eyes, hearing with the same ears. Won't that be joyous? Is there anyone who would not want to pass this barrier? So then make your whole, this is an interesting instruction, because it's not what people usually think. Be very gentle and mindful and stuff like that. To hell with that, he says, make the, this is Zen. What is in this is Bush Week. So then make your whole body a mass of doubt. So that's the dog thing, isn't it? You sign with the thing you thought was the problem. So you enter the thing that you thought was the problem. Kind of turning into that difficulty, the trouble. And with your, anybody who did anatomy of the real one, probably for this next bit, but your 360 bones and joints and your 84,000 hair follicles, but a very large number of both. A whole bang, a whole shebang, a whole lot. concentrate on this one word, no. Day and night keep digging into it. Don't consider it to be nothingness. Don't think of it in terms of has or has not. Don't consider it be yes or no. Just keep entering it. It's like swallowing a red hot iron ball. You try to vomit it out, but you can't. I don't know, like you can't, at a certain stage you can't get rid, if you're really deep in the practice, you can't sort of get rid of it. It's not quite there yet, but you can't get rid of it out there, And it's a beautiful thing when you realize, oh, I'm being carried by something greater than what I thought. That's a very important part of practice. Be carried by that which is greater than my motives and skills and schemes and my prestige and my honor and how important I am. Something much greater than all that. And so that's what the modesty of Zen practice is, that, you have to, the great Koan is greater than you. It stops carrying you. And then gradually, there's the purification part of the practice. You notice that some people came in today and said, wow, obsession's already my mind is not as tangled as it was. That's the purification process, and you just feel it happen. It's okay if it's more tangled than it was too, it's just happening differently, but that's entry the trouble. But you'll notice that you sort of get washed, Gradually, you purify yourself, eliminating mistaken knowledge and attitudes you have held from the past. You know that, isn't it? Like one of the attitudes we hold is I got to compare myself to other people, for example. But Vienna, and that's one of the big things, isn't it? You walk into the room and, you don't like a picture, and plus it wasn't Hamburg, and, or whatever it is, and comparing yourself to someone. Why do they think they're important? I'm very important. Because that's not said. I'm modest. They think they're important. Anyway, you know what I mean. It's called being a human being, and the comparing and contrasting. I have this friend who is not here now, so he told the story. And I think they don't recognize anything, but he's a very modest, kind of thoughtful person. He's get back on work. I mean, not in that would be a very modest, quiet person. And so I gave him, I don't know, some intuition instead of giving him this guy, no. You've noticed, I sometimes give people a different first going, like the light. What is your light? Is equivalent. The call not the same colors. As what is I said, I said, well, what really goes on inside your mind when you're being so nice? She said, I'm really comparing myself to everyone. This usually thing. I said, and hadn't forgotten the true person has no rank. He calls the same colors, no. The dog can put a nature, not no. Are you important? The true person has no rank. So anyway, back to dough and dogs and things. You eliminate mistaken knowledge and attitudes you've held from the past. That will be the mistaken knowledge. Whatever social stances, I have to charm everybody. I have to flee everybody. I have to be paranoid. Whatever your thing is, It doesn't say that's bad. It just says it's sort of like it's not you, that it falls away. And inside and outside become one. So that's one of the big interesting things, in these moments when you look at a tree and you realize, oh, it's somehow, it's got something to do with me, the tree and me. And you notice with the night sky, perhaps, like my grandfather spoke of being on the deck of a ship long ago and looking up in the night sky and sort of being part of it, being overwhelmed by particular mystic aspirations, but there's something he thought he would pass on to me about life. And And you know what that is, don't you? You really look at that. Some people get it with a flower, The Buddha twirled, in Zen legend, Buddha twirled a flower, teaches it over. You're like a person who cannot speak, who is mute, who has a dream. You know it for yourself alone. There's a great example of this in traditional Koan story where great young men had a pretty talented student who stayed with him for 18 years, and every day young men would ask him, "Where is it? Where's it now?" It's a dark. He'd ask him some dumb question every day, and the guy he'd do his best, and he'd go away. He'd quote long things from sutras, and he'd quote clever responses that other teachers had given him. That for him, would even answer, it's like, and then they'd go about their day, and he was his secretary himself. So, and then one day, after 18 years, he said, "I get it." And you then said, "Great, tell me." And the guy couldn't say it. But you believe he got it. He was like that person, he can't speak yet, but he's had the dream. Yeah. And sometimes you'll feel that, I get it, but I can't, and you've got to be true to yourself when you know something's deepening in you, and you can't hurry it. You just got to let, one of the urges was the fetus is being gestated. So you know it for yourself. You're like a person who's mute, has had a dream. You know it for yourself alone. So suddenly, door breaks open, the heavens are astonished, the earth is shaken. It is as though you have snatched the great sword of the great general. When you meet the Buddha, you kill the Buddha, with a famous Zen kind of saying. There can't be a Buddha outside of you, Show me the hand of the Buddha. Yeah, don't be chicken shit, go for it. Hold it up. It's kind of awesome, isn't it? Like the hand of, it's awesome. Like, can you feel that, how amazing it is? Like, wow. The heavens are astonished. When you meet Bodhidharma, you kill Bodhidharma. No discrimination here. Buddha, Bodhidharma. You are, they can't exist outside of you. At the very cliff edge of birth and death, you find the great freedom. You find the great freedom. In the sixth world, all the worlds of birth, if you're a demon, a god, an angry god, an animal, a human being, a hungry ghost. In all the six worlds, all ways of being born, you enjoy a samadhi, a deep meditation of frolic and play. How then should you work with it? I'm glad you asked, he says. Exhaust all your life energy on this one word, no. If you do not falter, then it's done. A single spark lights your candle. Your topic, and so. And you can tell that, woman, he was just really wanting you to have that experience. He was passionate about it. You can tell. I don't know. He just wanted to help. And he thought it would help. And in fact, it usually does. When you meditate, all sorts of troubles turn out not to have been real. So, unless. The long version exists in the book of Serenity, and the gateless barrier was the second great Koan collections. The first one, which we use the most, I suppose, is the Blue Cliff record, which is a great compendium of koans and enlightenment sayings, sort of accumulating like autumn leaves on their hair and their shoulders and everything. So, and this one, and then the third great one is the Book of Serenity, which we also study as a context. So, just to say a few things about this, you can tell that if you're just doing a koan, it doesn't really matter what koan is. Like, at some stage, I realize somebody once, who's a close friend of mine, said, I just hate this koan, what? And I hate it. And so I hate this koan, and I need no one. And I said, no, it's not going to help. But after sort of a year or two of pleas about that, I said, oh, there's only one way to prove it won't help. And so I said, somebody asked you men, what is Buddha? And you said, cake. And so she had to work with that for a while. And it was kind of an endearing thing. I thought, well, I'll experiment, And then you see that people, cake. A particular kind of sesame rice cake was considered nice, especially nice. And a friend of mine, I lost all contact with her the epidemic, but Tibetan teacher, one of those people who, there was his lineage where he was born, he was assessed as a reborn Lama, and then hyper-educated. And they kind of got interested in Zen, and he said, there's another koan that goes, what is Buddha? 3 pounds of flax, 3 kilos of flax. He said, 3 kilos of flax? What does that to me? I tell, it hadn't. So you see, the koans or something that the koan will stick to you, and that's the good thing. It's like the trouble or the fever coming to the surface, and you realize there's something about life that's great, and you just need to do. You need to solve this matter. And it doesn't really matter how many lifetimes, I suppose. Like the guy who was a fox for 500 lives, he never quite forgot the fact that there's something possible. He wastes 500 lives before he finds the person who can release him. Very nice. And to then get beyond success and failure, we get beyond, I don't know, whatever it is we think is important. And then meditation becomes very rich, And then it doesn't matter if you have a really hard time. That's sort of great in a way. If you're having a really hard day, into there. The Buddha starts out with this great saying, knock on any door, someone will answer. It's kind of this typical sensibility in the blue cloth. Knock on any door, someone will answer. If the door is, God, I hate this meditation. Excellent choice. Good door to knock upon. And you notice when you just enter here, when you stop refusing what the universe is giving you, everything opens. And it's a matter of you might have tears, you might have, I don't know, lots of things. The dog, the liveliness of the dog will wag its tail, the liveliness of the dog will be there. So I was thinking about a few examples of people, people I know who had experiences that seemed noteworthy to them. And since I remember them, I guess they are noteworthy to me. And somebody who was she was, a pretty good student. She had a kid, and they looked after her kid pretty well. Stuff that she was in the dojo a lot, and in sesshin, and then she said she smelled the toilet of the place where we used to, there was a toilet in Trip Center. Somewhere always smelled of pee. It'd been a solar candle on stage and stuff. You just never got rid of the smell of pee from that room. And she smelled the pee and just came by, fills the universe. And so she said, hang on, something's happening. This is different from my usual reaction here. And that was okay. And then she went out into the people who did water meditation as tolerable that I'll do with you outside. And And it was through a redwood grove, and she was walking behind the toykeeper, the Jikititsu, and he had a black silk shirt on, and she just started falling into the patterns of the shirt, And she said, "Oh, that shirt is not different from me either." And then the redwoods went out, and then she felt, I'll never have a part of this mystery. I'll never. And then suddenly she realized, here it is. It's kind of nice. Simple thing, but here it is. And so when I tell stories like this, that's what your reaction is. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll never do that. I'll never be able to do that. Which is called desperately clinging to unworthiness. So, buoying up a bit, take the ride. But also, it's so interesting that you might recognize another person who's in this room had started to meditate, but something had taken fire with her, and her life she'd had a hard time for a while, and used to weep in the dojo. And I said, well, if you can't weep in the dojo, where can you weep? You can't laugh in the dojo, where can you laugh? But then she heard, and she wasn't in session, but she heard a train whistle far away. Something opened in her, and she knew it had opened. She didn't tell anybody, but she came into the next session. She came in to interview with me, and he just actually just look at it and see something had happened. And so I stood to ask her questions about the Koan law. And she said this great thing. She said she was incredibly annoyed. And she said to herself, or she told me, I think, before you may get the story, she said to herself, if I'd known I was going to be subjected to an interrogation like this, I wouldn't have come. A very proper way of thinking. And then she realized, well, I don't have to answer it, the Koan can answer it. And then she could answer our questions. And it was obvious to me that something had happened. It wasn't everything, and later on she had other experiences, but it was certainly enough to open the heart and have joy and have that comparing fall away, thing fall away. And she said that before that she'd walk into a room and she'd just be assessing everything and finding a problem with everything. Anybody else who had that experience or not? So I don't know what I'm trying to, just to say, it's not a rare thing, waking up, opening your heart is not a rare thing. But it does mess with who you thought you were. Because if you stop comparing and judging everything in the room, you have to stop being better than everybody. It's very hard. Some way feels like being better than everybody is to be worse than everybody. I'm terrible, that's me. So, just saying. So you can see that it requires a transformation of the way of being in the heart. But it doesn't really require it so much. You just keep flinging yourself into the Koan, it'll give it to you. You get undeserved help on the way. But you don't have to be faithful to it. You just have to stop being so superior to, if I get in light, I have to admit that I wasn't, or I was faking it, or whatever it was. And I was a little bit in line that it wasn't anything very much. So you have to stop worrying about all that stuff, and the gates open, and you're here. The gates are quiet. Does a dog have Buddha nature or not? And you can tell there's something, as a philosophical question, I must say I don't think that's very interesting to you, but I suppose that's all from my side of things, because I remember people asking religious figures, do dogs get into heaven? Oh, I'm sorry, my child. And you priests get into heaven? No. They eat young foxes. But, so yeah, there's something profound about, the equality of being, the tree is equal to me, and the little woodlouse, is curled up in the damp places. Those Zhaozhou, they have gills that don't breathe, not insects, things like that. Cotton bugs or rolly toys. So there you are. There's your put in nature, right? Breathing through his gills, eating wood in the damp corner. It's the way they've been living, on this planet. Global warming hasn't taken me out yet. So the Buddha nature and everybody you look at, just look around at somebody in the room. The Buddha nature is right here in San Rafael. We got to put a nature, and you're in the heart, The one who looks has what they're looking at. So I suppose. And also don't get too into achievement. The funny story I told you about them digging the pit for the guy throwing it in and burying him alive if he didn't. He was clearly too hooked into it to achieve it. That was a way of solving it. Like, now that I've completely failed on mid-air, I'm going to be buried alive. Finally I can be here. It's an elaborate way to get there, but don't criticize other people's methods. But it's you, it's you whose hand is the Buddha. Show me the hand of a Buddha. One teacher did a very touching response to that. He said, playing guitar in moonlight. Show me the hand of Buddha. Playing guitar in moonlight. We didn't know. Alison, I told one of those stories. Do you want to say anything about that? Oh, I can tell you, I just interrogated her just before I came in. I said, what was that story about the train whistle? I remember her refusing to answer the questions, then quite happily answering them all.
Well, I think it wasn't that I refused. It was I was so shocked and immediately just felt this sort of white wall of fear. It was sort of blinding fear of being wrong. And I just had no idea that sort of situation would appear in Dose Humper.
You thought it was supposed to be comforting.
I didn't think it would be that testing, I think. And in my mind, that's what I imagined this question was, that it was a test. And that I didn't really care about getting it right, but I very much didn't want to be wrong. And so I felt immobilized by that possibility. And I thought, I just can't do this. I cannot answer. Alison cannot answer this question. And then this little quiet voice is right back here that said, well, Alison can't answer this question. That's right. But Moo can answer it. And it just seemed, that's all right then.
Do you hear that? You can't answer the question, but the Koan can, And it's an interesting thing, and people have written about it as a testing and checking process. And Japanese are very fond of examinations, which somebody inherited from the Chinese. And in the whole examination scene in the literati tradition. There are whole books of the right phrase of poetry. Moonlight sweeps across the balustrade and no dust is stirred. That's the answer to some columns. They're like little quotes of classic poetry. And at some stage you realize, no, it's not a test, it's a discovery process, And it's the intimacy process because of discovering how do you see it, and how do you, you see it that way, or for you it's in the center of P was the gateway, or the train whistle, could be in danger of your life, and that could be the gateway. Now, it's a funny thing. When I was going through that initial process with these questions are often asked. Does a dog have Buddha nature or not? How big is a dog? Things like that. And at some stage I realized, and sometimes your intuition can answer those things, but the teacher can tell that and doesn't give too much credit to it. But at some stage I realized, I knew all this. It was a great thing. It felt like bursting in me. And I know I was far from something, and then you feel it burst in you. And also at that stage it didn't matter whether I got them. That's the important thing. You're still being attached to the grasping. This will say anything. I'm sorry to tell you, nothing will say anything. If it will say it, you'll say to the world too. That's how you say it all the beings in the world, right? Yeah. But and so then I realized, and so I don't know, I just didn't want to go through and rush through and answer those questions. So they just went back and sat in the back corner of the meditation hall, just listening to the birds and meditating and just laughing, But I didn't know what was funny. It was just the laughter, wasn't even mine. So I had to sit with that for a while. And I knew I could answer the questions, but I'd just take them one at a time so I could taste each one. So that's what it was like. And I just found them, instead of being some onerous final exam, I found them incredibly kind and generous because it started to show you what. So that's what I think, this guy, Wu Ren, when he said, make your whole body, all that stuff. He's doing his best, He's being kind. And also, you can tell, when you hear that, you can tell I have some of that in me. That Buddha nature is not in me. I can tell that.
To support these episodes or learn more about upcoming programs and retreats at Pacific Zen Institute, visit us at pacificzen.org. You'll find details on John Tarrant's Sunday talks, our Open Temple morning meditation, and our Zen Luminary series featuring intimate conversations with scholars, poets, and teachers of Koan Zen. Thanks for listening.